The ice cracked like a gunshot, and Sophia vanished into the black water, her scream cut short by the cold. I was halfway across the lake, heart-pounding boots slipping as I ran toward the hole where she'd been skating just seconds ago. The crowd froze their shouts, distant, but I couldn't wait for help. Not with her out there fighting to stay above the surface. I never thought a night of hot cocoa and kids' laughter would end like this. But here I was, diving toward the ice, praying it would hold. And this is how it all started. Hello, I'm Ethan. I'm 22, living in a small town in Minnesota where winter feels like it owns the place. The kind of cold that creeps into your bones and stays there. I work at a home appliance repair shop fixing toasters, microwaves, whatever people break. It's not glamorous, but I like it. Keeps my hands busy and my head clear. On the side, I coach kids at the local skating rink. Teaching them to glide, fall, and get back up is the best part of my week. I'm not rich. Live in a one-bedroom rental with a creaky heater, but I'm good. Life's simple and I'm okay with that. I grew up in a house that wasn't much of a home. Parents fought more than they talked, and by the time I was 16, they were both checked out. I learned early to fend for myself, but I don't hold grudges. Instead, I try to make things better for others, like fixing Mrs. Larson's coffee maker for free when it died or helping little Timmy next door learn to tie his skates so he could join the other kids. Makes me feel like I'm fixing more than just appliances. The town's small, maybe a couple thousand people, all centered around Lake Winona. It freezes solid every winter, and that's when it comes alive. Families skate, kids play hockey, old folks sip hot cocoa by bonfires. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your name. And if they don't, they'll wave. Every year I organize a community skate night. Nothing fancy, just string lights, a portable speaker, blasting old rock tunes, and a table with free hot chocolate. I drag out extra blankets and gloves for anyone who forgets theirs. It's my thing, bringing people together on the ice. That's where I saw Sophia. She's my boss at the repair shop, runs the orders, and keeps the place from falling apart. Sophia's 40, but you wouldn't guess it looking at her. She's got this auburn hair that catches the light, always tied back neat, and a voice so warm it could melt snow. But she's distant, like there's a wall around her. She's professional, always polite, but doesn't chat much. Stays late at the shop most nights, typing away at her desk long after everyone's gone. I figured she likes the quiet. Once I saw her staring out the shop, window eyes lost somewhere far off. I didn't ask why. Didn't feel like my place. Rumor around town is she's divorced. Nobody knows much, just that she moved here a couple of years ago, started running the shop, and keeps to herself. She's beautiful, don't get me wrong. Those sharp cheekbones, that soft way she moves. But it's not just that. There's something about her like she's carrying a weight she doesn't talk about. I never pushed. I'm just the guy who fixes the cubby machine when it jams. Not someone she'd open up to. Friday night was the big skate event. The lake was packed. Kids zipping around. Parents cheering the air. Smelling of wood smoke and cocoa. I was in my element tying skates for a couple of 7-year-olds, joking about how they'd be NHL stars someday. I brought extra blankets, handed them out to folks shivering on the benches. The string lights twinkled against the snow and the music echoed across the ice. Felt like one of those nights where everything's right with the world. Then I saw Sophia. She was standing by the cocoa table holding a paper cup looking out at the skaters. She wasn't dressed for skating, just jeans, a thick sweater, and a scarf wrapped tight. Her hair was loose for once, glowing red under the lights. I'd never seen her at one of these events. She's not the type to show up for community stuff. I figured she was just passing by, maybe dropping off some shop paperwork. I walked over, wiping my hands on my jeans. Didn't expect to see you out here, boss, I said, keeping it at light. She turned and gave me a small smile. Not cold, but careful, like she was testing the waters. Thought I'd see what all the fuss is about, she said. Her voice was how almost drowned out by the music. I grinned. You ever skate Lake's Perfect tonight? She shook her head, that smile fading a bit. Not in years. I'd probably fall flat on my face. I laughed. I'd catch you. Got plenty of practice with the kids. She looked at me for a second like she wasn't sure if I was joking or serious, then turned back to the ice. Maybe next time, she said. I didn't push. It went back to helping a kid named Mia tighten her laces, but I kept glancing at Sophia. She stood there longer than I expected, watching the skater sipping her cocoa. Something about her looked different tonight, not just the loose hair or the way she wasn't in her usual work blazer. She looked lonely, not in a loud way, just quiet, like she was part of the scene, but not really in it. A bit later, I saw her talking to Mia, the same kid I'd helped. Mia's a firecracker, always dragging people onto the ice. She must have said something convincing, because next thing I know, Sophia's borrowing a pair of skates from the spare pile. I raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything. She laced them up, wobbly, but determined, and stepped onto the ice. Mia stayed close, giggling, guiding her. Sophia's face lit up a little, like she was remembering something she'd forgotten. I caught myself smiling. She looked good out there, even if she was moving slow. I went back to handing out cocoa, joking with the parents, keeping an eye on the kids. The night was going smooth. Music, loud fires crackling, everyone laughing. Then I heard a sharp, ugly sound like a bone snapping. The ice. My head whipped around. People were shouting, pointing out near the edge of the lake where the ice gets thinner. Sophia was gone. A dark hole gaped in the ice water, sloshing. Mia was screaming. She fell. She fell. My stomach dropped. I'd skated this lake my whole life. Knew the weak spots. Told everyone to stay close to the center. Sophia must have drifted too far following Mia, or just lost in the moment. I didn't think, just dropped the cocoa jug and ran, my boots crunching on the snow. People were yelling. Someone was fumbling for a phone to call 911. But I knew help wouldn't get here fast enough. Not in this cold. Not with water. That could kill you in minutes. Then wait. Someone shouted. Maybe Old Man Jenkins. I ignored him. The ice creaked under my weight. As I got closer, my heart pounding. I could see Sophia's hands now clawing at the edge of the hole. Her face pale, eyes wide with panic. She was fighting to stay up, but the water was pulling her down. Her clothes heavy, the cold stealing her strength. Hold on, Sophia, I yelled, dropping to my knees, crawling to spread my weight. The ice groaned, threatening to give. I was close enough to see her lips trembling, her breaths coming in gasps. I'm coming. Just hold on. I shouted again, my voice cracking. I didn't know if the ice would hold me. Didn't care. All I could think was that she was out there alone, and I wasn't gonna let her go under. I slid closer, the cold biting through my jeans. The lake growling like it was alive. Her eyes locked on mine, scared, but trusting, like she knew I'd get to her. I reached the edge of the hole, my hands shaking, the water so dark it looked like it could swallow us both. This was it. No turning back. I slid closer to the hole, the ice groaning under me like it was warning me to back off. Sophia's hands were slipping, her fingers clawing at the jagged edge, her face pale as the snow around us. Her eyes were wide, locked on mine, and I could see the panic in them, but also something else. Trust, like she believed I'd get her out. The water was black, colder than anything I'd ever felt, and I knew we had minutes, maybe less, before the cold shut her down. Sophia grabbed my hand. I shouted, stretching as far as I could without breaking the ice under me. My knees ached from the cold, my palms scraping against the frozen surface. She reached, her fingers trembling, and I caught her wrist. Her skin was like ice itself, slick and freezing. I pulled slow and steady, using every bit of strength I had. The ice creaked louder, but I didn't let go. Couldn't. You're okay. I got you. I said, more to keep her calm than because I was sure of it. Her body came up water, sloshing, her clothes heavy and dripping. She gasped, choking on the cold air, and I dragged her onto a thin patch of ice just a few feet from the hole. It held barely. I could hear the crowd on the shore yelling, their voices faint over the wind in the creaking lake. Someone was shouting about 911, but I knew help was too far out. This was on me. Sophia was shivering hard, her teeth chattering so loud it sounded like a machine. Her sweater and jeans were soaked, clinging to her like a second skin, and I could see her struggling to stay alert. Hypothermia was setting in fast. I yanked off my jacket, a thick fleece thing, and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Keep this on," I said, my voice firm. She tried to protest, her lips barely forming words, but I shook my head. "Don't argue. You need it more." The cold hit me like a punch without the jacket, but I ignored it. She was worse off. We were stuck on this fragile patch, still way too far from shore. The ice was thin here, spiderweb with cracks, and every move felt like a gamble. I knew skating knew how to balance on ice, so I stayed low, spreading my weight. "Stay flat," I told her. "Don't stand. We crawl." "Okay." She nodded, her eyes glassy but focused on me. I could tell she was fighting to stay awake, to keep with me. I started talking, anything to keep her mind off the cold. One of my kids, Joey, tried to spin on the ring, fell flat on his butt, but he just laughed and got up. Said he's going to be the next Olympic champ. I forced a grin, watching her face. She blinked slowly like it took effort, but her lips twitched almost a smile. "Sounds like you," she whispered, her voice shaky. "Always picking people up." That hit me harder than I expected. I didn't know she'd noticed that about me. I kept talking about the kids, the rink dumb stuff, like the time I spilled hot cocoa on my skates and had to coach smelling like chocolate. She listened, her breathing slowing a bit, and then she spoke, her voice barely there. "I came tonight because I was tired of being alone at home, just me in the quiet." Her words were soft, but they cut deep. I could hear the loneliness in them, the same kind I'd seen in her eyes at the shop. I wanted to say something, anything, but the ice shifted under us, a low groan that made my heart skip. "We got to move," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Slow. Follow my lead." We started crawling, inching toward thicker ice closer to shore. My hands were numb, my knees burning from the cold, but I kept my eyes on the path ahead. The shore was maybe 30 yards away, the bonfires glowing like a promise we couldn't quite reach. Sophia followed her movement, sluggish, her breath coming in short gasps. I kept talking, telling her about the time I taught a kid to skate backward, and he crashed into me instead. She let out a weak laugh, and that sound kept me going. We made it maybe 10 yards when I heard it, a sharp crack like a gunshot. The ice was giving way again. I froze, signaling Sophia to stop. "Don't move," I whispered. My eyes scanned the surface, looking for cracks, but it was hard to see in the dark. The string lights from the event didn't reach this far, and the moonlight was too dim. I could feel the ice sagging under us, soft and unsteady. "We're okay," I said, more to myself than her. "Just got to be smart." Sophia was shaking harder now, her arms barely holding her up. I reached over, put a hand on her shoulder. "Look at me," I said. Her eyes met mine, hazy, but still there. "You're not alone out here. I'm with you. We're getting out." She nodded. Just a small jerk of her head, but it was enough. I could see she was fighting not just the cold, but whatever weight she carried inside. We started moving again, slower this time. Every inch felt like a lifetime. I kept my body low, guiding her, watching for any sign of the ice breaking. We were halfway to shore when I saw a thicker patch, maybe strong enough to hold us. "Almost there," I told her. "Just a little more." My voice was steady, but my heart was racing. The cold was getting to me, too. My fingers stiff, my chest tight. I didn't let her see it. She needed me strong. We reached the thicker patch, and for a second I let myself hope. The ice felt solid, less creaky. I helped Sophia sit up, still wrapped in my jacket. "We're good," I said, catching my breath. Just need to, the words died in my throat. A loud crack split the air, and the ice under me buckled. I shoved Sophia forward hard onto the thicker patch just as my leg plunged into the water. The cold was like a knife cutting straight to the bone. I gasped, clawing at the ice, pulling myself up before it could pull me under. Sophia screamed my name, her voice sharp with fear. I dragged myself out, my jeans soaked, my body shaking. The water was freezing, stealing my breath, but I forced myself to move. I crawled to her, grabbing her hand. "I'm okay," I panted, though I could barely feel my leg. She was crying now, quiet sobs, her hands gripping my arm like I was her lifeline. We huddled there, wet, freezing, the shore still too far. The ice groaned again, a reminder we weren't safe yet. I looked at her, her face pale, her hair stuck to her cheeks. We're not done, I said, my voice rough. You with me? She nodded, her eyes fierce despite the cold. With you, she whispered. We held on to each other, our breaths mixing in the frosty air of the lake, still threatening to swallow us. The ice was a traitor, groaning and cracking like it wanted us gone. My leg was still numb from dipping into the water, my jeans heavy and freezing against my skin. Sophia clung to my arm, her breath coming in short, shaky gasps, her face pale under the moonlight. We were huddled on a patch of thicker ice, but it wasn't safe. Not by a long shot. The shore was maybe 20 yards away, the bonfires flickering like they were taunting us. I could hear the crowd's voices, faint and frantic, but no sirens yet. Help was still too far. We got to keep moving, I said, my voice rough from the cold. Sophia nodded, her eyes wide, but focused like she was fighting with everything. She had to stay with me. My jacket was still wrapped around her, but it wasn't enough. Her lips were turning blue, her shiver so bad, I could feel them through her grip. Hypothermia was closing in, and I wasn't much better off. But giving up wasn't an option. Stay low, I told her, dropping to my stomach again. Follow my path. We go slow. We go smart. She copied me, crawling behind her hand, scraping the ice. I led the way, testing each inch with my palms, listening for that telltale creak. Every move felt like rolling dice. The lake was angry, shifting under us, and I knew one wrong step could send us both under. We made it maybe 5 yards when the ice let out a sickening crack louder than before. My heart stopped. Before I could shout, a chunk broke free right in front of us, splitting the path to shore. Water surged up black and hungry, and the piece we were on tilted. I grabbed Sophia's arm, yanking her back, but the momentum sent me sliding toward the edge. My legs went over the coal, biting like 1,000 needles. I clawed at the ice fingers, slipping my body half in the water. Ethan? Sophia screamed, her voice sharp enough to cut through my panic. She lunged forward, grabbing my wrists, her face set with a strength I hadn't seen before. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't let go. I've got you, she said, her voice steady, despite the fear in her eyes. She pulled hard, her knees braced against the ice. My chest burned as I kicked, fighting to climb back up. The water dragged at me heavy and relentless, but Sophia's grip was stronger. With one last heave, she hauled me onto the ice, both of us collapsing, gasping. I lay there for a second, my breath fogging the air, my body screaming from the cold. Sophia was next to me, her hands still on my arms like she was afraid I'd slip away again. You okay? I panted, looking at her. She nodded, tears freezing on her cheeks. You almost. She didn't finish, just shook her head. I reached for her hand, squeezing it. Not going anywhere, I said. Not without you. We couldn't stay still. Ice was still breaking, smaller bited cracks spiderwebbing out from where we lay. We're too close, I said. We got to move now. Sophia nodded, her jaw tight. This time she took the lead, crawling ahead, her movements careful but determined. I followed, amazed at how she pushed through despite the cold sapping her strength. Keep talking, she said over her shoulder. Keeps me awake. I forced a laugh, my teeth chattering. Okay. Last week, one of my kids, Sarah, tried to skate backward. Ended up doing a full split. Looked like a cartoon. Sophia let out a weak chuckle, her breath visible. Sounds painful, she said. She okay? Yeah, I said. Got up laughing. Kids are tough. I paused, then added. Like you. She glanced back, her eyes softening for a second before she turned forward again. We kept moving, taking turns leading. When Sophia slowed, I'd talk about the rink, that kids anything to keep her focused. When I started to falter, my leg dragging from the cold, she'd speak up. I used to skate, she said, her voice low. When I was a kid, my dad taught me before everything. I caught the weight in her words. Before what I asked, keeping my tone gentle. She was quiet for a moment. The only sound, our hands scraping the ice. For I married the wrong guy, she said finally. Thought he was the one. Turned out he was just good at lying. I caught him with someone else. Broke me. Her voice cracked, not from the cold, but from something deeper. That's why I came here to start over. But it's hard to trust again. She stopped crawling, her head bowed. I slid closer, resting a hand on her shoulder. You're here now, I said. That's not nothing. She looked at me, her eyes raw. Why do you do this, Ethan? Help everyone fix everything. I shrugged the cold, making it hard to think. Grew up in a house where no one fixed anything. Not the sink, not each other. I just want things to be better for people. It was the most I'd ever said about it, and it felt like letting go of a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Sophia nodded like she understood. You're good at it, she said softly. Better than you know. That hit me, her words warming something in the cold couldn't touch. We kept crawling, her leading now, me following. The shore was closer, the bonfires brighter. I could hear sirens in the distance. Help was coming, but we couldn't wait. The ice cracked again, a low rumble. Faster, I urged, and we picked up the pace. Our breaths ragged. Sophia's hands were shaking, but she didn't stop. I stayed right behind, ready to catch her if she slipped. We were maybe 10 yards from shore when a final crack split the air. But this time, the ice held. We reached solid ground, collapsing into the snow, the crowd rushing toward us. Blankets were thrown over us, hands pulling us up, voices shouting about ambulances. I barely heard them all. I could see was Sophia wrapped in a blanket, her eyes locked on mine, like we were still out there, just the two of us. The rescuers took over, checking us for hypothermia, wrapping us in more blankets. My leg was numb, my body shaking, but I was alive. Sophia was alive. We sat side by side on a bench by the bonfire, too tired to talk, just breathing. The crowd gave us space, their voices a low hum. I glanced at her, her face lit by the fire, her hair still wet, but her eyes steady now. You scared the hell out of me, I said, my voice. She smiled, small but real. You didn't give up, she said. I owe you. I shook my head. You pulled me out too. We're even. She looked at me long and quiet, like she was seeing me for the first time. The paramedics wanted to take us to the hospital, but Sophia waved them off. I just need to go home, she said. Then she looked at me. You're coming too. You're soaked. I didn't argue. We drove to her place, a small house a few blocks from the lake. Inside, it was warm, the kind of cozy that felt like a hug. She lit the fireplace, handed me a towel and a mug of tea. We sat on the couch, the fire crackling, neither of us saying much. The silence wasn't heavy. It was comfortable, like we'd earned it. Thank you, she said finally, her voice soft. Not just for out there, for being you. I smiled, my hands wrapped around the warm mug. You helped me too, I said, and I meant it. Something had shifted, not just because of the ice or the cold, but because of what we'd shared out there. She looked at me, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen. Stay for dinner, she said. Not a question, but not a demand either, just an invitation. I nodded. I'd like that. We sat there, the fire warming us, the night outside. Quiet now. Something new was starting, small and unspoken, but real. The fire in Sophia's living room crackled, throwing soft light across the walls. We sat on her couch, mugs of tea in our hands, the warmth seeping into my bones. After that night on the lake, my legs still ache from the cold water, but I felt alive more than I had in a long time. Sophia was quiet, her auburn hair drying in loose waves, her eyes softer than I'd ever seen at the shop. That night, we didn't say much after she asked me to stay for dinner. We ate soup from cans, laughed a little about how bad it tasted, and just existed together. It was simple, but it felt like the start of something. The days after were different. Not in a loud way, just a shift. I catch Sophia smiling at me at work. Not her usual polite boss smile, but something real. One morning, I brought her coffee, black, no sugar, the way she liked it. You're spoiling me, Ethan, she said, her voice teasing. I grinned. Got to keep the boss happy. She rolled her eyes, but her smile stayed. That's how it started. Small moments, easy, like we were figuring each other out without trying too hard. We started meeting outside work. First, it was coffee at the shop after hours sitting at the counter while the heater hummed. We talk about nothing movies. The kids I coached her favorite books. Then it was walks by Lake Winona, now frozen solid and safe, the town's string lights reflecting off the ice. One evening, we stopped by the shore, our breath fogging in the cold. I asked about her dreams, half joking. She looked out at the lake, her scarf tight around her neck. "I want to write a memoir someday," she said about starting over. "Not sure I'm brave enough, though." I nudged her shoulder. "You survived that lake. You're plenty brave." She laughed soft, and I swear it was the best sound I'd heard in years. I told her about my dream, too, opening a skating school for kids. Not just teaching tricks, but giving them a place to feel free. "You'd be good at that," she said, her eyes steady on mine. "You make people feel safe." That word hit me. Safe. I didn't know I could do that for someone, especially her. The age thing came up one night over pizza at her place. We were on her couch. A bad comedy on TV when she got quiet. "Ethan," she said, picking at her slice. "I'm 40. You're 22, don't you think?" She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. I set my plate down, turned to face her. "I don't care about that," I said straight up. "You're Sophia. That's what matters, not some number." She looked at me like she was searching for a lie, but I meant it. "I just don't want you to wake up one day and feel stuck," she said, her voice low. I shook my head. "Only thing I'd feel stuck with is not giving this a shot." She didn't say anything, just leaned her head on my shoulder. That was answer enough. The town started noticing. At the shop, my coworker Mike grinned when he saw me bringing Sophia lunch. Skating into her heart. "Ha!" he said loud enough for her to hear. She blushed but laughed and I flipped him off, grinning. Old Mrs. Larson, who I'd fixed a heater for, winked at me at the grocery store. "That Sophia's a keeper," she said. It was light teasing, but it felt good, like the town was rooting for us. Sophia started showing up to more community stuff like the Sunday potluck or the rink to watch my kids skate. She'd bring hot cocoa, hand it out to the parents, and I'd catch her smiling more open than before. We were healing, both of us. Sophia wasn't so guarded anymore. One night, she told me about her ex, how he cheated, how it made her feel like she wasn't enough. "I thought I'd never trust anyone again," she said, her voice steady now. "But you're different." And I didn't know what to say, so I just held her hand. For me, being with her made me feel stronger, like I wasn't just the kid from a broken home anymore. She saw me as more, and that made me want to be more. Winter rolled on and I got an idea. I wanted to do something for Sophia, something that meant more than coffee or pizza nights. I saved up, took an extra shift at the rink, and ordered a pair of skates. Good ones, white leather, her size. I had the shop engrave her name on the side, small and simple. Sophia. It was a nod to that night on the lake, to how we'd made it through. I kept them hidden in my truck, waiting for the right moment. That moment came when we decided to host a free skating day for the kids. Sophia suggested it one night, her eyes bright. "You love teaching them," she said. "Let's make it special." We planted together flyers, snacks, extra skates for anyone who needed them. The town pitched in, bringing blankets and thermos jugs of cocoa. The day of the lake was alive again. Kids laughing, parents cheering, the air crisp and cold. I coached the little ones, showing them how to glide, while Sophia handed out cookies and tied laces. We worked like a team, stealing glances, her smile making the cold feel like nothing. After the kids cleared it out, I grabbed the skates from my truck. The sun was setting, painting the lake orange and pink. Sophia was by the bonfire warming her hands when I walked up. "Got something for you," I said, holding out the box. She raised an eyebrow, curious, and opened it. Her breath caught when she saw the skates, her fingers tracing her name. "Ethan," she said, her voice soft, eyes shining. "They're perfect." I shrugged, trying to play it cool, but my heart was racing. "Figured you needed your own pair for next time." She laughed, then hugged me, her arms tight around my neck. "You're too much," she whispered. I held her close, the smell of her scarf wool and a hint of her shampoo filling my head. "Try them on," I said. She laced them up, wobbly at first, and we stepped onto the ice together. The kids who stuck around cheered, and Sophia rolled her eyes, laughing. We skated slow, hand in hand, her grip steady. She wasn't scared this time, and neither was I. Later, we sat on a bench by the lake, sharing a thermos of cocoa, the kids still skating under the string lights. The air was quiet, just the scrape of blades and the crackle of the fire. I didn't think I'd ever feel this safe again, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at her, the fire light catching her hair, her eyes calm and warm. Me neither, I said. Guess we're both lucky. We sat there watching the kids, their laughter echoing across the ice. It wasn't a big moment. No grand speeches or promises, just us together building something real. That night on the lake when I'd run out to save her, I didn't know it would lead here. I didn't know one brave act could change everything, but it did for her, for me, for us. I thought about my childhood, the cold house I grew up in, and how I'd always wanted to fix things. Sophia thought she was broken after her ex, but she wasn't. She just needed someone to stay. We found that in each other. Not fireworks or movie endings, but the quiet kind of love that shows up in coffee cups, bad jokes, and skates with your name on them. And as we sat there, the lake solid and steady under the stars, I knew we'd keep showing up day after day for as long as we could. In the chilling grip of a frozen Minnesota lake, Ethan and Sophia's story unveils a profound lesson about the transformative power of courage and mutual trust in the face of life's most perilous moments. What began as a routine community skate night turned into a harrowing fight for survival when Sophia fell through the ice and Ethan risked everything to save her. Their desperate crawl to safety, each pulling the other from the brink, revealed a bond forged not just in shared danger, but in vulnerable ability. Sophia's guarded heart scarred by a deceitful marriage open as Ethan's unwavering determination showed her she was worth saving. His quiet support fixing appliances, coaching kids, and gifting her engraved skates helped her rediscover her strength, while her resilience inspired him to dream bigger than his broken past. Their story teaches us that true connection is built on showing up not just in moments of crisis, but in the everyday acts of care that follow. It's a reminder that love and trust can heal even the deepest wounds when we dare to stay despite fear or doubt. Have you ever faced a moment of crisis that revealed an unexpected bond or changed your perspective on trust? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how courage shaped your connections. If Ethan and Sophia's journey moved, you hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories that inspire bravery and heart. Let's keep these conversations alive. Your voice makes them resonate.